Ulonkata bati yada to ye kuma daifa. Inu to ye ko je love bipa. Oba tala, oba takutakun. Zongo eshu, ogun oya osun. Kini sheshe, tan she nile yo. O jelo jai.
Alafia, peace and blessings, peace and blessings. Welcome to another episode of the African Spirituality Experience. I'm your host, Orisa Gbemi, and today we are joined by none other than the distinguished legendary scholar, Professor Kaba Kamene. Peace and blessings. What's going on with you, Professor Kaba?
Peace to you, my brother Orisha Gbemi. Everything is excellent. We're moving ahead, just doing things that are going to be very positive and beneficial for our people and particularly our children.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. Appreciate it. Look, and before I even go any further, man, I got to give a strong shout out and strong salute to you, man, because the last time you and I did this in this capacity, man, I feel like I got to give you a whole lion's share of the credit for sending this channel through the roof, man, because if I'm not mistaken, last time I saw it, I think the last one we did was like 60-something thousand had checked it out. And it just kind of sent the channel into another realm, you know, in regards to like exposure and how, you know, it's kind of growing. So I want to definitely give a shout out to you and give thanks, you know, for all the time that you've done this with me. You know, we've been doing it for quite a few years now. And I got a idea that I'm working on with sharing our very first interview, the one we did in Miami in the hotel room.
Man.
And I just was watching it too. I'm like, yo, this is going to be dope because everything we talked about, 6-7 years ago, however long that was, it's still relevant. It's not only is it still relevant, it might be more impactful now than it was then. Based upon, you know, what's happening now. So I look forward to sharing that with the channel in the very near future. And, you know, I give thanks for, you know, for all that you've done for me and my journey, and not just for me, for myself, but also for, you know, the people who are community members and those who are loyal listeners to the African Spirituality Experience. So with that, I definitely want to give a shout out and a salute to you, you know, for all that you've done, not just for us, but for the culture.
Yes, man. Well, I also shout out to you, brother, man, because together we make these things happen. Because being able to come onto your program and to be able to share this information with our community, you know, it is advantageous for me, so that if I in any way was a part of having folk come in on your program, at the same time, your program help people get a sense of what I'm doing as a people. So it's a mutual. This is Africa at its best, brother. This is what we do.
Yeah.
You know, we just working together makes us work together. Yes. So I appreciate what you're doing for the community and allowing me to come on and share this opportunity with our people, brother. Because this is the time right now, man. This is really the time that we're experiencing, what we're looking at, the things that are experiencing. And I think it's very important for us to be able to look at this from a black light.
Yes. Yes.
Exactly what's going on. And I tell our people, mind your business.
Yes. Yes.
No, it's time for us to go in with our family and get our family together, because what's happening right here, brother, is nothing but those who oppressed us years ago. Now they're fighting themselves. This is how the Creator and the ancestors work. Like they say, more honor amongst thieves, brother.
Yes, yes, and more yes. Because man, I'm telling you, it's almost like I feel like it's like the whole planet right now, at least from my personal little corner of the planet and experience, it's like it's in slow motion. Like I feel like personally, like Neo in the Matrix, when he was slowed down, when he was able to finally figure out he was the one, he started bobbing and weaving from all the punches, and then he started being able to maneuver, and he started throwing them things at him real fast. Like I feel like that's where we are right now as a people. Like real talk.
Yeah, you know, there's no doubt about it. You know, in my experiences through the years, I've watched this happen through the years. Remember back in 2000. Well, let's go back a little bit before the year 2000 and go to the end of 1999. Let's say October of 1999. And there was this rush on what was going to happen with B2K or something like that.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, the year 2000.
People were selling things like emergency packs and for everybody to get ready. Well, the thing that people didn't understand is that the children didn't understand what the adults were saying. And And so I was asked to visit many different schools, boys and girls clubs, church groups, to talk to the children about what was going to happen in the year 2000, because the children thought something drastic was going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, and so I would go around and like one of the questions they would ask me that I remember most is, what's going to happen when the clock strikes 12 midnight in 2000? Like they thought the world was going to end.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I told him, I said, listen, it's going to go on. Nothing's going to happen. We're just going into a new century, a new time. And it's important that we just continue doing what we're doing, and you stay here in school. You keep doing what you're doing. You keep being happy and positive. It's going to be all right. But the children actually thought something was going to happen.
Yeah.
And even with what's going on now, it's important that we speak to our children. Like the other day, when the situation broke and they were dropping bombs the other night, one of the first things I did was call my grandson, 13. And I said to him, everything's going to be all right, man. How you feel?
Right.
What's going on? How do you feel about this? And he was telling me about how he's against war and he didn't want to go to war. And, you know, like he's turning 18 in like 5 years, and he didn't want to be drafted. And, you know, but you see, family, this is what's going on with our children.
Yeah.
This is why as adults, we have to be careful how we speak around our children, because they don't have the collective experience that we have as adults. When we talk about something, we have a collective experience, but our children don't. And so with everything that's going on, if they're on social media, which they are, and if they're on watching television, which they are, it's important that we as adults guide them through this process to help them understand that it's going to be all right. And that, as far as I'm concerned, as a person of African descent with indigenous groundings, we've always lived like this. You know, what's happening to a lot of people when people talk about being invaded, busting into your house, being able to subdue you and hold you. Well, that's been the history of Black folk, at least since 1492. We know what this is. If anyone knows how to teach a class on how to survive what's going on now, it's us.
Yes.
It's us. We have survived. Inflation, prices going up. Prices have always been higher in our community. Insurance for stores have always been higher in our community.
Homeowners insurance, redlining.
All of that. And so we as a people have to look at this from a very critical eye to understand exactly the difference between a friend, an ally, and an enemy. Because an ally is somebody that you partner with to achieve a certain goal. World War II, China and Russia was the United States ally. And the enemy was Germany, Italy, Germany, Italy, and Spain was for a while.
Was it France too?
Huh?
Was France one of them too?
No, it was Germany, Italy, and it was Japan.
Okay.
Okay. After the war, Germany, Italy, and Japan became our friends, and China and Russia became our enemy. So just because someone's your ally doesn't mean that once the deed has been achieved, that they're your friend or your ally anymore. And I think for us as a people, one of our great challenges is that we've held on to allies too long. And we don't realize that they have not been a friend.
That part.
And so that we have to understand that we got to cut them loose and continue to look out for ourselves. So right now, what we're looking, because you see, brother Orisa Gbemi, I marched with Dr. King in 1965. Okay, in Boston, Massachusetts. It was Easter break. And he came to Boston and he marched to the Boston Commons. I marched with Dr. King. I've been in the presence of Malcolm X.
Mm.
I worked on Adam Clayton Powell's political campaign and Charles Rangel's campaign, passing out flyers and things like that. We told them back in the 60s. We told all of our melanated brothers and sisters back in the 60s, stay with us. We know these people. We've been around them for hundreds of years. You're new here. You don't know who you're dealing with. And just because they're smiling in your face, making you think it's all right, they're just trying to figure out a way that they can get you another way. Stay with us. Continue to struggle and battle with us.
Yeah.
And together we can make it happen. Oh, no. They thought they had it all made. Everything was all right. So now look at what's going on. We told you 60 years ago.
Tried to told you. We tried to told
you. I was there. Yeah. I was there. I know. There were some that fought valiantly. I'm speaking of as a group. As a group. There were some that always stayed with us, always struggled with us. To them, I send regards and I understand. And I just say, isn't it too bad that they didn't listen to you? You told them, stick with us.
That part. Yeah. Yeah.
Now it's time to be black first. Black first.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
I'm sensitive to what's going on, but I got business to take care of.
That's facts.
But I do feel for you. I know, because I've been going through this since post 1492.
Yeah. And
a little bit before that, if I go back into my ancestry, when you invaded the motherland.
Yeah.
So we know who we're dealing with.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Maybe next time around, you'll know better.
That part. Got to be more careful. That's what they say. Yeah, man. And shout out to the brother OB1111, man. He just became a grandfather tonight, man. So shout out to him, man, for the either grand young king or young queen that just came back, into the world, man. We salute you and congrats on that, expanding the family and all that good stuff. Because look, that's what we came here to do tonight, is to not only expand the family, but to pour in and to coach and to cultivate and nourish and, all that good stuff with the family, man. So with that, yeah, that was a nice, warm welcoming. It's funny. Shout out to my boy Nkosi too. I saw him in the chat earlier. I remember last time we did this. He's like, man, Professor Kaba, he started all nice and slow and nice and smooth, and then choom, warp speed. I don't know why, but I still remember that comment, man, because that's exactly what happened. So look, I feel like we're in that nice little transition, nice little, little pull around the block, kind of like a roller coaster when it, swerve around the block a little bit and it start to climb on up the mountain and then it get ready for the descent, man. That's what we're ready to do tonight. So with that, there's a lot of stuff going on, Professor Kaba, outside of the whole war situation and all that, which I definitely want to get into. But there's a few other things that I really, really, really couldn't wait to have this conversation, because it's you and a couple other people that I've been extremely blessed to have relationships with that I can't wait to have this conversation with as well. Because for me personally, I see there's a lot of progress with what we're making in regards to us as a people, whether it's here, stateside in America, or if it's, on the continent and, over in Africa, i.e. shout out to, the brother, the captain, Ibrahim Traore, right? Burkina Faso. Shout out to Baba Mukasa Dada, who was on the panel with us for the Malcolm tribute. He's actually, if I'm not mistaken, he might even be over there right now with Captain Ibrahim Traore. So it's like we have some very, very decorated generals and chiefs and captains and warriors that's blessed us, with our presence, with their presence here at the African Spirituality, including yourself. So with that, there's a lot of things going on that I see within our community, where you have the FBA people, the Foundational Black American section, and then there's like friction and, or I would say one-upping or, whatever. It's a lot of, to me, respectfully, it's a bunch of BS from my own personal perspective, but that's how I feel about it. But for you, someone who I looked up to since I first seen the first video of yours, I've been, a student, like even without you knowing that I'm a student, I've been a student. I'm sure there's thousands, if not maybe millions of other people who feel the same way. So with far as my research brings me, I personally only knew of humanity beginning on the continent of Africa. However, I haven't done enough research to do any debating or to do any, you know what I'm saying, any type of debunking of anything that says anything further or different. So I won't even ask that question about where you feel like or where your research has brought you to where it began. But the question I would ask before that, because this one matters more to me than that one does, is hypothetically speaking, let's just say if humanity did begin in America, or if there was a new development that fossils were found older than the ones that were found in Africa, right? And they were, of course, they were of a melanated female, regardless of where they're found. But my question to you is, regardless of where or which continent humanity began on, why would there be any type of forward or positive notion of us beefing with or having any friction with brothers and sisters from the continent, regardless of where humanity began? Like, what would be the purpose of us not being willing to be united with those brothers and sisters from the continent, being those of us who are from or who were born here in the continent of America, or I should say on this side of the water?
Well, there is no reason except we haven't grown up.
Mm,
We are still in the process of maturing
mm,
as a human family. When you talk about the different stages of the human family going through and coming up out of life's history, in my research right now, my research, beyond a shadow of a doubt, with the preponderance of overwhelming evidence, life started in Africa. And life started in Africa for many different reasons. And because wherever life started, there would have to be, between the humanoid or the human being, there would have to have been a very strong relationship with the Panjits or the gorillas. Because bone for bone, muscle for muscle, outside of just a few differences, apes and humans are exactly the same. Muscle for muscle, bone for bone, organ for organ, the exact same. So that if wherever life started, you would have to have seen an evolution of the Panjids in the same place. And the only place that we have that is in Africa. Now, people have their own views towards the idea of the relationship, the connection between the gorilla, the ape, and the human, the chimpanzee and the human. But I don't have that type of problem, because when you look at things from science, we don't put the types of limitations on nature. I mean, who think scientifically. We don't put the limitations on nature that some people do when they are immature in terms of their wisdom and their knowledge and their look at the world and understanding nature and our relationship with nature. When you go into the DNA, when you go into the chromosomes, humans have 23 from both parents, 46. Apes have 48. And what happens is that you have to study the science to understand what a telomere is in your chromosome. And you'd have to understand what a centrosome is. And you go back to chromosome number 2 in the human. At one time, we, known as hominid, we at one time also had 48 chromosomes. But 2 chromosomes came together and became 1. And that's what gave us 23 chromosomes from each parent, as opposed to 24 in the ape. And that's what differentiated the hominid from the pangid, and that life that we created on the ground as opposed to being up in the tree. We did not evolve out of the ape. The ape and the human have a common ancestor. And that, and some people call it Ramapithecus. I don't care what you call it, as long as you know that it existed. But when that Ramapithecus split and some of the Ramapithecines came down on the ground, developmental changes occurred. And that's what developed us into who we are, because when we got down on the ground from being up in the tree, a number of things had to start to happen. And those things that happened changed the structure of the way in which our head was shaped. For instance, if you look at an ape, you'll see that they have a slanted forehead. But when we came down on the ground, there were things that we had to do, and it forced our brain to begin to throb as we were thinking. And what happened is that the brain, the frontal lobe, began to push out, and that's why our forehead comes out as opposed to being slanted. But our early ancestors had a slanted forehead. When you look at the Australopithecine, when you look at Lucy, or Dank Nesh is who the Africans called it. And so there's a common ancestor that brought us into existence, and for many other reasons. Life started in Africa. If we had the time, and I have classes, I have webinars and webinars on the origins of the human family. In my book, Spirituality Before Religions, I talk about the development of the human family. Spirituality Before Religions. That's it there. So, you know, I try to be, I try to think going into the future. You know, I'm in the process down the road, that is. I'm writing a novel now. Okay. I'm finishing up my last non-fiction book. And I'm going to write a fiction book about a civilization that comes to Earth that has been civilized for over 100 million years. And they're going to look at us on the planet when they come, and they're going to see how immature we are towards each other. Brother, Orisa Gbemi, and to the family that's on board here, we have people starving. We have people who don't have proper clothing, shelter, safety. The money that we're spending on war. If we were a mature group of people, we would spend our money wisely on what could bring forward other human beings that can contribute to our planet. Why are we acting like this? Look at what we're doing to each other. Not just as intercultural groups, which means other cultures, but even within the groups themselves. The intracultural infighting. Why? What's the purpose behind it? When there's so many things we could take our resources to build the proper nation. Now, this civilization that I'm thinking about, 100 million years they've been civilized. People talk about us being civilized maybe 4 million, 5 million, 6 million. It's longer than that. But imagine being civilized for 100 million years. Imagine where they would be according to their own life's history compared to where we are. They'd look back at us and say, we were like you 95 million years ago. We haven't thought like that about each other for over 95 million years.
Listen, I already knew, like, I felt like I knew a good, strong, I say good percentage of where I felt like you would go with that. And then you definitely went exactly where I anticipated and what I'm grateful for. But for me, everything you said was profound, and everything, of course, was words of wisdom. But there was one word that you said that stuck out, and it was like the doggone African RBG Liberty Bell. Ding! Like it just donged in my head when you said it. And that word was maturity. Maturity.
Yeah.
Because shout out to, the several new brothers who I built a rapport with and a relationship with, who's come to the channel, got huge followings such as yourself, and they brought another, mob of Ashe tribe members. Some are actual real subscribers, some are shadow watchers, which is whatever, it's cool. But the fact of the matter is, I found myself answering the question or having to respond to comments about which place it began at. And from the very beginning, the first thing in my mind that I didn't speak, but subconsciously, the first thing that popped in my mind is you are immature and you don't get it. You don't get it. And I really want to use some expletives because I want to speak my heart, but I out of respect to keeping my cool and not letting my passion get the best of me. I'll keep it clean tonight. But in my mind, I'm just like, why does it matter? Okay, let's just say it did begin in America. Okay, America's my mother, Africa's my father. Okay, because either way it goes, you got two sides, two contributions from two beings that came together to create you. So I'll be damned if there's a person on this planet that can say that not one of their parents has anything to do with the continent of Africa. I don't see where that's going to happen scientifically, whatever, anthropologically, whatever. And even if it did, okay, cool, because I don't have a problem admitting when I'm wrong. But I haven't took the time to do the research, nor am I going to, because for me, it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. Because what does matter is I'm about raising the consciousness, the frequency, the elevation of empowering and education, giving and distributing upliftment of our people. And fact of the matter is, I don't give a damn what continent you came from or which one you on. If you're here to get this food for thought, I'm cooking up the pots. And if you're here for anything else, then this is the channel that's not for you, because I'm not going to entertain that BS. You know what I'm saying? Like, to me, it's really immature, it's childish, and it's divisive. I don't have time for that. And to quote you, we're going to get to the promised land, but some of us ain't going to make it. So the ones who have that division and that inner self-hate or whatever you want to call it, but if you're moving out of a sense of division, you ain't no better than the enemy that we're in the process of conquering. So if we're looking at 1804, you are the collaborator that I'm looking at. We're going to get you up out of here because you're not going to add to the solution. You part of the motherfucking problem. Excuse my French, but you are.
And
so therefore,
Brother Orisa Gbemi, again, thinking as a civilization that has existed for 100 million years, I still love them. And I know that they're hurt. And they're hurt badly because the only reason why you come at somebody emotionally angry or upset is not because of a hang-up I have. It's because you got a hang-up. And you're insecure in your belief system. And what you have been taught, you're rejecting. You're rejecting everything. You're rejecting it because you know what you've been told is not the truth. However, I don't know if you know what the truth is if you tripped over it. And so it becomes important that we come to our people with a sense of love and respect and honor. But at the same time, understand that what I am simply asking people to do who have their own origin theories, I'd like you to go to my website, kabakamene.com, and I'd like you to get my study guide and my 6-day e-course It's free. All you do is you put your email in the slot, and the first day of the e-course will come down to you, and so will the study guide. 44 pages. What I am asking you to do is to be able to present your knowledge, wisdom, and understanding as it relates to what will, through a preponderance of overwhelming evidence, show the evidence of what you are believing and teaching. And when that happens, I will put my information on the table, and you put your information on the table. And as scholars, as brothers and sisters, let's chop it up. This is not personal. I'm not angry. Knowledge and wisdom is not an emotion. There's a passion that you presented.
Yeah.
But there's evidence. And this is what my brother, Dr. David Imhotep, used to always tell me when he wrote the book, The First Americans Were Africans. He used to say, I'm not into truth or facts. I'm into evidence. Because truth and facts can change.
Yep. I like
but
that.
Evidence remains the same. Last week, brother, in New York, it was like 60 degrees. We had to go around with heavy overcoats, jackets, just a couple of days ago. Today, man, is 90-something degrees. Okay.
Trust me, I know. Look, you know, I'm from up top in New England area, man. Listen, New England. Well, New York is part of New England. It's part of that region anyway. But that's the only place on in this part of the world I know you can have all 4 seasons in one doggone day. You can have cold, you can have snow, you can have all 4 seasons in one day up there in that area for real. That's crazy.
Last week, the truth was that it was chilly. And that's a fact.
Yeah.
But today, it was very hot and humid. Yeah. That's the truth. And that's a fact. See how truth and facts change.
Yes, sir.
But evidence remains the same.
I love that. I love that, man. Listen, now that brings me back to, I think, when you was here in Jacksonville, the last event that I saw you in person. And I remember there was a part of your presentation where you was like, how you stay in your lane, how, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't go into no other area, no nothing. Like education, that's where I'm gonna do my thing. Like, I'm gonna get out there. I can get it up there like Mike on the court. Like education, that's what I do. I ain't going nowhere else. I'm gonna stay right here because that's where I feel like I'm Mike at is in education. I'm the same way. Like, I'll never talk about something I don't know or I don't have evidence or receipts for. I won't do it. I won't even give my perspective. I'll give my opinion maybe, but I'm not going to talk about it as if I know that. And there's several guests who've been on recently that's talked about them. Like, I don't know about that, but please enlighten me because I don't know. But what I do know, I'm going to talk about that. So for me, I know, like I said, based off of my research and off of what I've done, it began in Africa, but I'm not opposed to admitting if I'm wrong. So if somebody can show me the evidence that it did begin here in America, that doesn't change my mission, because my mission was never to prove where it began or why it even began wherever it did begin. Because for me, my mission is to come and do the work that's going to be the spark to turn on the light and to elevate the spirits and the souls of the people who I was sent here to do that for. So regardless of whichever continent humanity began on, that doesn't change my mission. And I'll be damned if I'm going to let you come in here and try to put any type of cloud over the sunshine that we have here in these Ashe streets by trying to create some sort of division. And that's why I get passionate about it. And I do, drop a few F-bombs or whatever, because I'm just like, if you really stuck on that, you're missing the point. And you ain't the type of person that I can go with anyway. Like, you can't be in my battalion. I don't want you. And don't even come here because I'm from the Dessalines mindset. Like that's in my spirit. Like that Jagun Shango. Like that like that's where I'm at. So it's like, whatever you want, if you ain't on trying to unite so we can get through to be victorious as a people, and I'm talking about all of humanity for that matter, then you're not on the right team. and I don't want nothing to do with you or what you got going on either.
It's key, but you see, we're still at that immaturity level as a human family. And see, that's why I want, in my novel, I want them to be 100 million years civilized. They've already gone through this mess, you know, and they'll talk about the mess that they went, the internal wars, the fighting.
Yep.
And you see, this is what the Aten text, written by the scholars of Akhenaten's dynasty, was talking about. Their scientist was talking about the properties of the sun. You see, we don't understand the story. Like, for instance, people of color. The term people of color don't exist. You ain't got color. You got pigmentation. And your pigmentation comes from melanin in the skin. Because you got melanin throughout your body. Everybody got melanin. It's the production of it that you're really looking at. That's most important. If you didn't have melanin in your eyes, you couldn't see. If you didn't have it in your ears, you couldn't hear. If you didn't have it in your heart, it wouldn't beat. If you didn't have it in your reproductive system, you couldn't reproduce. Melanin is the mothership that is guided by carbon. And this is why the title of my book is Carbon Before Melanin. Because it becomes so important for us to understand exactly what's going on. So as a human family, no matter where you come from on this planet, as a human being, we're all the same. And it's dumb for us to be fighting like this. It makes no sense whatsoever for all the things that we should be doing health-wise for our people, to be able to have them eat the proper diet. We should a long time ago stop putting all them dyes in our food. All that sugar, all that sodium. Long time ago, we should have done that. But you know something? When you're 100 million years old, you see things that 5 million year old people don't see. You haven't gone through those trials and tribulations to understand that we are on the brink of a climate disaster. We worried about how we're getting along with each other. I'm going to tell you something. This climate is going to take us all out. Just climate change alone, our children should be on study teams, studying climate and what they're going to do when they mature into their adolescence and their adulthood, as to how to deal with the fact that we have a warming trend. We still tripping over the fact they're saying, well, humans created the warming trend. No, this warming trend was always coming. We just made it worse by polluting the planet.
That
There's
part.
always been a cooling trend and a warming trend. Black folk been around so long, we've been through both. We've been through these cycles. We watched a rich green area become the Sahara Desert. We watched rivers dry up in Africa. And then we saw rains come that brought the water back. We've gone through the cycle of life. But the Indo-European is no older than 8,000 years old. So how do they know? But the real question is, why did we let that happen? Because we were the masters and mistresses of the world at one time.
That part.
But this is like the child that took over the house and telling the parents what to do. We know this country was saved by a black man. This country was saved by a frail, slender man that looked at the earth and was so in touch with nature. He saw that the Indo-European, the European in particular, had what's called a cash crop. They would only grow one thing: cotton, tobacco. And in so doing, he depleted the land of its resources. It's called photovoltaics in science, where you have a bean and a squash and a corn. And as you grow each one in each season, the growing of the corn replenishes the land so that the bean is growing better. The bean grows so that the squash grows better. And so there's a cycle of nature that your produce of what you're producing in the land, what you're growing in agriculture, replenishes the land, and it brings electricity. Photovoltaics, what electricity brings. When you did a cash crop, all of a sudden you deplete the land because you're only growing one thing, and it's taking all of the nutrients out of the land. And George Washington Carver said, well, that's very interesting, because if I start growing certain things in this land, like soy and peanuts and things like that, that will bring back the land the way it should be. He saved America's land. And yet we're doing the same thing again. We're immature. We're still children living during a time when adults should be speaking. You remember, I don't know, but when I was growing up, adults would say children should be seen and not heard.
That part. And adults or grown folks or even elders who got a child's or childish mentality or mind.
That's it.
Be seen and not heard too, because y'all ain't no different.
Well, that's what I'm saying, because see, being a child is a mental thing.
Yeah.
It's an immaturity.
Yeah.
You know, because I've been around children all of my life in terms of my jobs. And the thing is that children have not, like when I was talking earlier about talking to children about what's going on now, they don't have the collective experience to be able to put things together and critically analyze.
Right.
So what they see is right in front of them, and that's what they judge. But as an adult, as a mature adult, you see things from a wide spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I always tell the story about that you're walking in the street and you come upon a two-way street. Cars are going in both directions, and there's an incident that happens in the middle of the street, and you want to know what happened. And you have a person on corner A, corner B, corner C, and corner D. And I always ask the question, if you want to know what happened, who would you speak to? Some people would say, well, I speak to corner A, the person on corner A, because the accident happened close to them. Some people would say, well, I would talk to the B, because they're looking at it from their angle. The answer to the question is, not only would I speak to A, B, C, and D, but I'd also speak to the people in the middle of the street that had the accident, because that way you have a holistic view of what happened as that incident occurred. But when we're studying our history, and we're studying our history from a European perspective, you're only talking to one person. You got to talk to all the people that were involved in order to have the full view of the incident itself. Right now, we are depending on one person's view to know what happened. And they showed up on the corner late. So they weren't even there to see the incident. So how are you going to depend on them? Maturity. You must be mature. And to be mature means that you must be balanced. You must be truthful. You must have harmony, righteousness. You have to have certain characteristics. And that means that you must be on the road of Ma'at. And this civilization is not there. And for as long as they're running things, they will only create their own destruction. But the question is, what are we doing to get ourselves together? Because we are going to get to the promised land.
That part. Some of us ain't gonna make it.
That's the way it is. And all things that happen to innocent many times suffer for the guilty. That's what sacrifice means. It's a sacred event that the innocent many times must give up their prosperity in order for the group to be able to be prosperous. It's unfortunate, but it's just the way it happens.
Yeah.
You know, when you have cancer, not only do they cut out the tumor or the dead cells, but they tend to go around that cell, even with the living cells, and pull those living cells out for fear that those living cells may have been compromised by the dead cells. And so even with cancer, some of the living cells must be sacrificed to save the whole person.
That's deep. That's real deep. Because oh man, yeah, because there's so many different ways I can go with that too, in regards to like how deep that is. Because when you're talking about sacrifice, a lot of people don't. I don't think a lot of people can attest to the different dynamics of what a sacrifice is, right? So I think one of the most historical known internationally sacrifices is the sacrifice of Jesus, for the sins, right? So, but we know because we've covered and we've already been in detail about that whole Jesus story on this channel, and you were one of the main progenitors of bringing us that whole historical astrological, like the way you tied it all together from the cosmic level to the planetary level to even to the level of knowing thyself. We've covered that here. I'll send the links for those who may be new to the channel, and I literally just did that, I think yesterday. I had to share that same, I think it was Spirituality Before Religions episode that we did where we broke that down, where you broke that down. But that's a real thing. But a lot of people are so quick to look at or judge or criticize other people, not knowing the sacrifice that they've made, right? So I thought about going into the Yoruba Ifa culture and spiritual system and practice when I wanted to speak about sacrifice, but instead I'm gonna pivot and call an audible on the play, and I'm gonna talk about the nature of human sacrifice, and not so much in the phase of sacrificing the actual person's life, but more so about what a human sacrifices for other people to benefit from aspects of their life. So I had a comment today on the channel from somebody that I didn't see them, so I might have offended them with my comment, but it is what it is. But they were complaining about the amount of ads or commercials that come across on the channel. And so one of the people responded like, yeah, because YouTube, they doing that on purpose because they want you to sign up for the premium subscription in order to eliminate the ads, of course they get paid. And I was like, I commented back out loud, like, yeah, man, I said, I had to do that too, because I got tired of seeing all them doggone ads. It got on my nerves. And there's other channels that I like, that I follow, that I want to see. I don't want to see all them doggone commercials and ads. So, excuse me, I paid the little $18, $19, whatever it is, a month so I can watch my shows without the interruptions and, the commercials. So then the same dude came back. He was like, oh, I ain't paying them nothing. Like, I shouldn't have to pay them. Like, when I first started watching this channel, it was free. And I'm like, bruh, like, for real, that's how you feel? Like, I'm sad to see you said that. Like, you really feel that way? I was like, man, that's not cool, because you think we get up here and we do this all for free? Yeah, I mean, yeah, the channel is free. My time ain't free. Do you know how much money I spent to invest into myself in order to be sitting here to have this conversation and to be able to have these types of conversations with people like you and all the other people who've been blessed to come in here and share your time with me and with them for free? That's out of love. That's not a free thing. Even though technical currency wasn't exchanged, if you didn't have some sort of even a small amount, a bit of love or respect for me, you're not sitting here right now, and vice versa. And I told him, like, bro, the fact that you said that bothers me, because I've seen you talk about you being a Tupac fan. When Pac was alive, when he dropped his albums, you wasn't going to the store to get his albums for free. That wasn't a problem, was it? Right? So now you got people who have spent not just thousands of dollars, but thousands of hours of sweat equity into learning everything that we've learned, and to studying and researching and learning from elders and all these things that we've done, to have to pay it forward to learn all the things that we're now giving away for free, which is reciprocity. I'm like, the fact that you feel like that's a problem for the content creators to be compensated for their time, that's a problem for me. And if you see that that's a problem, that you have to pay for the premium, or that the content creators aren't worthy of the ads that pay them so they can support their families, that's a problem for me. So if we're in 1804, I'm looking at you now like the collaborator. I might have to get rid of you because you ain't on the same team and you're not going for the same thing. And then I had to let him know, like, bro, like, the person who's coming on tonight, I bought almost every book that he's ever written. Anytime he was within 8 hours of a drive to me, I went to see him at his events. And I also let him know, like, and that's still not nowhere near enough compensation for him for what he's contributed to myself, to the community, and to the culture. So if you see a problem with an educator for being compensated for the time that it takes for them to nourish and cultivate and educate the people that they are educating and empowering, then nah, the problem's not with me. The problem ain't with the channel. The problem ain't even with YouTube. The problem is with you, because you feel like you're entitled and you should be giving everything for free. You didn't sacrifice a damn thing to get all this knowledge and wisdom and education and empowerment that you can receive for free, and you still complaining about that because you didn't want to take the time for the ads that's compensating and paying those who sat here to create that content for them to be able to be compensated for their time that they exchange with the energy exchange of reciprocity. And I was like, that's crazy. We got to do better. I don't think you should never do that again, whoever that person was. But what do you think about that, Professor Kaba? Because we spoke about that before, about reciprocity.
Well, I did an event yesterday
Mm-hmm.
in my community for Juneteenth, and there were vendors there. And we were all community. And what I was saying to them is that these vendors should go back home with nothing. You should buy everything that they have. They're all small Black businesses. And when they have events, they've chosen to be with us. Like, there was a brother that had some phenomenal t-shirts. There was another sister that had bags with sisters' faces on the side of the bags. Beautiful bags. Sisters with beautiful dreadlocks and just phenomenal visuals. And I explained to them why it was important, because that brother's t-shirts and that sister's bags, when you go into a home and a young girl is sitting in that home and you come in with that bag, she sees herself. The image, the business that she has decided to go into has decided that they want to represent us. As someone who does this work, for instance, going out on tour, I'll be going out on tour. Harun Nasset, my son, and I will be going out on tour. And normally when you go out, you are compensated for whatever it is that they'd like you to do. But there are many times when I go out into a community, like when we were in Florida,
Mm-hmm.
when we were together, there was no charge for that.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. In Miami,
Okay.
yeah.
I was there to speak to a group, high school. The brother brought me in to speak to, and he brought me into a high school to speak. Oh, no, it was a museum. It was a museum in Fort Lauderdale, I believe.
Mm.
That is what I was compensated for. But everything else that I did, there was no compensation for.
Mm.
But the reality of it is that if I'm going to continue this work, if I'm going to be able to continue to support our community with this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, the community has to value that.
Mm. Mm.
And they have to value it through financial support. The other side of it is the hustler who comes before the community and hustles the community. I understand that aspect too. But it is up to the individual, first of all, that's doing the work to show his dedication to the community, that they trust that he's authentic or that she is sincere, and that they know that their investment financially is going to move that person further in their research, which then when it comes back to the community will then push the community back forward into higher levels of consciousness. So it's a relationship. This work isn't free. I'm an intellectual entrepreneur. You play sports, you sell the sport. That's how you make the money. If you're a singer, you sell your songs. You make sneakers, you sell sneakers. You bake cake, you sell your cakes. I sell information. And so that it becomes important that people understand and respect, but then it's up to us to respect. We must have trust that when you support me, I will be able to go into a community, do what it is that I was brought in to do, but I can also do other things in the community where there will be no charge. And it is through the support of the community cash apping me or purchasing my books or my streams on my website, things like that, that give me the financial backing to be able to go in someplace. You know, they like in politics, like they'll do a presentation and all of a sudden they'll collect $2 million just over that.
Overnight.
And I'm saying to myself, like with the documentary that we're bringing forward, Negus in Kemet,
Mm-hmm.
I have 171 followers on Facebook.
Excuse me, Professor Kaba, I'm sorry. 171,000.
Oh, yeah, okay. My bad. Did I say that wrong, brother?
Well, you said 171, but look, I want to add the
Oh,
thousand.
yes. Yeah,
Yeah,
171,000.
the people need to know, like,
followers.
you six figures with that thing. Man.
Yeah, Instagram.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you know if everybody just purchased that documentary, do you know what I could do in education for our children and for our community? If everybody just bought one book, you know what I could do with that type of resource in terms of what it is that we have to do. The work that you're doing, Orisa Gbemi, it has to be financially supported. That is the means of getting things in place.
Yeah.
Good intentions have its place, but it don't pay the rent. It doesn't allow you to do the work that you're doing. Time is resource. That's why we say pay attention.
Yes, sir. That part.
Time is money.
Yeah.
Because money is the means of resource right now. Of course, we know economics does not mean money.
Mm-mm.
Echo, the word echo comes from the Greek word oikos. Of course, that's an African word, but I'll leave that alone for now. Comes from the Greek word oikos, O-I-K-O-S, which means your home or your environment, because the ancient world realized that your wealth was your land. The land is your wealth. It gives you everything that you need. It's like ecology means to study the land. Economics means to know your land and how it can bring you the resources that you need. But what has happened now, because we are in a world where the people that run things did not have good land. They had ice on their land. What they did is they created money. And that's the means of resource now. But there are ways that we can use that concept to take it to the next level. And I think that that's what we have to begin to look at and we have to begin to develop, because we have to support, and for some interesting reason, sometimes people think that knowledge and wisdom should be free. And in another more perfect world, when we're 100 million years old, that will be true. But for right now, our civilization is very immature and don't work like that right now. What gets me on an airplane is money. What gets me to rent a car when I get into a city is money. That's just a fact. And what I've seen great ideas and great organizations rise and fall because blessings on the people's heart. Their heart is in it so hard they put their money up. But after a while, you ain't got no more money. And sometimes your families suffer for the sacrifice that you give money, your money, the family money, the money that your children need. And that just doesn't work. That's not how a society functions. It functioned when we were amongst ourselves and we knew how to barter. But we're not there now.
Yeah.
And there's a reality. I want to go on tour. I've had just about enough. I want to share what I've learned over my years in education with the community now. It's time to set this up. I want to go into communities. We talked about our collaboration when I come down to Florida. I want to do the teaching. I want to show the community how to teach our children, and I want to show them what they missed growing up in this civilization, because I certainly didn't learn what I'm about to teach people. The system just didn't do that for me. I had educators that helped me. John Henry Clark, Dr. Wade Nobles, Dr. Yosef Ben Yakinen, Dr. Sharshi McIntyre. I had those that helped me. And I, being with children, see, the thing that I had an advantage is that many of the speakers spoke to adults. Okay. Many of them were college professors. But you see, I was a early childhood teacher. I was an elementary school teacher. I taught middle school and high school. I taught college, but I was early childhood. I was with kindergarten children, where I would sit on the floor cross-legged and read books to children. Okay, I had 30, 35 students at a time. And so I was able to take high-level information that's collegiate in level or adult speak, and I could make it child speak. I think like a child. Because to teach a child, you got to think like a child.
Yeah.
If you think like an adult speaking to a child, they're not going to understand you. Why? Because they're not mature. See, maturity is not a bad thing. In the sense that when you're a child, I don't expect you to be mature. I expect for you to be receiving of the information. I expect you to be who you are on your child's level. But I know that when I say 1 + 2 = 3, I'm not going to tell you in the first grade, solve this problem, 1 + x = 3. Because that's algebra. That's the search for the unknown. That's what you teach a high school student, a freshman high school student in algebra. But you don't teach algebra to a first grade student. I'm not saying that you can't, because I know folk that can. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is the level of maturity of understanding of the knowledge and wisdom of a first grader who is 6 or 7 is not where a 14 or 15-year-old would be. So the way in which you speak to a kindergartner is not the way you'd speak to a high school student, and vice versa. So that this is what I want to bring to the community. Because we don't have no more time.
Yeah.
No more time.
Yeah.
We have to get this done. But to go back to the point that we're making, brother, to make that happen, I need the community's financial support. That's the way it is. And the more support I get, the more support I'll give the community. If I'm able to acquire a certain amount of money, I'll be able to go to more places. I'll be able to do more things. If I have limited resources, I'll still do it. I'm going to do it. Nothing going to stop me. The question
Right.
is, how much can I do?
Right. Yeah. You know what's funny? And it just caught my mind. When I made the comment about the books or just about support, I meant that. And I said I had almost all your books, but I forgot the one that I didn't have that I could show, which this was the first one, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And then after that one, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it came, this one was next, right?
That was next. Spirituality Before Religions. Yeah.
After that one, then was this one, right?
Shabaka Stone, that came.
Okay.
That was it.
And then the next one was Carbon. Was it Carbon Before Melanin?
Carbon Before Melanin.
I can't hold that one, but the reason why I can't, because I got the audio book, so I'm listening to that one. But I'm gonna buy the paperback too. So the next time we do this, I'm gonna show that too, because I'm grateful, for not just for you doing all of these, but for everything you've done. And like I told the brother, even with me buying every one of your books and coming to see every event that was within 8 hours of driving, that's still not enough. I feel like you actually earned way more than that little bit of what I contributed, but that was what I had, that's what I have, and that's what I'm willing to do, because I believe in what I've been blessed to receive for free. So if you have a product or a service that I can invest in, I'm on that, because I know what your work has done for me. Without your work, I don't think I'm sitting here. And if I'm sitting here, it's not sitting here the same way that I'm sitting here, armed with the tools that I've been blessed with based upon the work that you've done, that I've been able to, internalize, and then I also redistribute, and push out for the sake of the community and the culture. So it's like, as above, so below, as within, so without.
And you see,
And
brother,
even just sitting here.
I appreciate what you've done. And if everybody did what you did, I would be able to do work that would be forever unfolding. If everybody did that, if you've already showed those books that you have got, if everybody did that, that feels that, because you see, I don't write because I'm a writer. I write because I have something to say. This next book that I'm writing right now, Who Were the Moors Before the Moors? This is the 5th and final book in this series. And I will have finished it by the time I go out on tour in 2026. Because all of my books lead, when you showed Professor William Leo Hansberry, okay, that book was an intellectual libation to William Leo Hansberry, who created the first Department of African Studies in 2022 at Howard University. The trials and tribulations that that brother went through go beyond, when you talk about sacrifice, what that brother did, and the people that came at him, and yet he was able to move forward and continue his work. I had to do libation because, it is our culture. And I know that through the Orisha, you pay homage to those that came before you set out on your journey.
Yes, sir.
Because they say, if you do not call to the ancestors and you perform, you're performing alone. I bring the ancestors everywhere I go. So I started my writing journey with a salute to the man who really embodies a lot of the things that I'm attempting to do in terms of curricular writing and staff development. The second book was Spirituality Before Religions. But that book I wrote in order to make the next book, Shabaka Stone, easier to understand. Because in Shabaka Stone, that's where the Abrahamic religions came from. The Old Testament, the New Testament, and then Islam being the combination of them both. That's where those holy books came from Shabaka Stone. But in order to understand Shabaka Stone, I wanted to lay out all of the different types of writings, the pyramid text, the coffin text, the Memphite theology, the Aten text, the Book of the Coming Forth Today by Night, and Shabaka Stone. I wanted the community to understand that writing style in order for them to understand the deeper piece, which I was going to present in Shabaka Stone. So spirituality before religions was meant to get the people ready for Shabaka Stone, which was the origin and continuing development of the cosmic universe, because that's really what religions are about. It's about resurrection of the soul. That's really what spirituality is about. It is about the search for the way to live your life while you're alive in order to inherit the kingdom of heaven, which is or was called a mentor. And that's science, by the way. Science.
Yes, sir.
Energy cannot be created nor destroyed. Each and every one of us has always been around, will always be around. There's no such thing as death. Death is nothing but the doorway to another room in the temple of eternity. And conception is the beginning of the process of birth, which is also a door. And this is why I think you spoke about a brother that had a grandchild.
Yes, sir. Yeah, one of the brothers on the chat tonight.
Yeah, there's a book titled Kindezi, The Art of Congolese Babysitting, written by Dr. Fukia. And he talks about the relationship between the grandparents and the grandchildren. Because in the African tradition, during the day when the adults, the working adults, would go out to do what they were doing to keep the community going, the grandparents watched the grandchildren. But there was a spiritual aspect to it also, because the children are fresh from the ancestral line, and the elders are on their way back to the ancestral line. And so the relationship between the grandchild with the grandparent was taking the child through the process of how to live their life to get to where they were. And the grandchildren were reminding the grandparents of the ancestral line that they were about to go back to. And so the relationship was far more than what people think. Oh, I got to take care of my grandchild. No, you got to find out what the ancestors are telling you, because they're the new messengers. They're here to give you the message of what you're going back to whenever you go back. And you're here to let them know how to live their life so they can prosper to be in their position when you become an elder and you're on your way back to the ancestral line and your grandchildren are coming through. And so I always recommend that book to understand the spiritual aspects of what you're dealing with. You're just not taking care of your grandchild. It takes a village to raise a child, but it takes a child to raise a village.
Yes, sir. I love that, man, because I promise you, like, I must have said that like 3 times, at least 3 times this week, in regards to the cycle of life, and like how I've been truly blessed with having a great connection to elders and to babies, to children, you know, because I'm not sure where the gift comes from. Well, the creator, of course, but I'm not, sure how it all worked out. And I was blessed to have this hand, but I'm grateful for it. But literally in a consultation, I think it was on Sunday, I was sharing, excuse me, that same exact metaphor, or the same exact comment that you just shared in regards to the elders. They're heading back to the ancestral realm, and the babies just came back from the ancestral realm. So for me, like, I've always been grateful, to be blessed with having the ability to, or I should say the gift of being able to connect, with elders and with children, but also with people with special needs as well. That was one I never really knew until recently, within maybe like 5 or 6 years ago. I didn't really know why I was drawn to or had a connection with people that had special needs. But then as I furthered my journey in the Orisha and the Ifa spiritual system or practice, I realized that the deity who supersedes my Ori in my head is Obatala, who in the Kemetic pantheon would be the equivalence of Ptah, right? So he in the Ifa pantheon, Obatala, he is someone who has an affinity for people with special needs. And that's based upon his story from his origins and I'm not going to go into that because that's a whole nother episode that we could have on that conversation in regards to as to why he has that affinity for people with special needs. But I never knew personally why I had it up until I found out that I was a child of Obatala. I'm like, oh, wow, now that makes sense, as to why I've always been drawn, or I've always been protective over people who, would had so-called disabilities or special needs. But for me, spiritually, I've always been from the school of thought that I know the Creator created all of us, and I have a strong, unwavering faith in the universal prime creator. So for me, I'm like, yo, if a person was to be born into this world, and let's say they're handicapped or quadriplegic or whatever the case may be, they can't use their limbs, there had to be some sort of, I feel like, sacrifice that they were willing to make prior to them coming here in order for them to want to take this role, to come here to play that part, on the world stage. So for me internally, I always felt like they got to be like a super saiyan like type, super advanced soul or a spiritual being to sign up for that role, to come here knowing that they're going to be limited to a certain capacity based upon their physical experience. I'm like, you got to have a way further, much higher level of consciousness and spirituality, or, you know what I mean? Like the way you view your existence to even sign up for that role. So there's something very special about these people, not special as in they're limited to what our beliefs of regular is, but special as to whoever they are and wherever they came from. They decided to come here to do this. They didn't just come and that just happened. Like, they signed up for that. So that always resonated with me on a deeply, deeply subconscious spiritual level. And I feel like that's the same thing with us. I feel like we all came here because we knew what this world was about to go through, but we came here because we knew we had to do this work, and we didn't want to leave the planet and this part of the galaxy or the solar system in other people's hands that we felt like were probably not capable or didn't have the necessary ability to make sure that this stayed, where it's supposed to stay, and in, the way that it's supposed to be for the creator. So I feel like that's what we're here for. Like, we came here to do this work, and that's why we're here.
Absolutely. I call children, because when I became a teacher, that may be, I started teaching in New York City in October of 1979. President Carter started the Department of Education in May of 1979. Okay. The same one they're trying to abolish now.
Mm-hmm.
The two very important aspects of the Department of Education, when you understand how the system is set up, it basically is dealing, with special ed, what they call special education, and bilingual education. And there's a lot of money put into these programs in many different ways that help many children in the boards of education around the country. And so special education didn't exist when I was first teaching the way it does now. I saw them build special ed classes in schools. And many times they drew from the school population. So that my exposure to children who we call special education is a misnomer, because we all need special education. And one of the things that I am really focused on is the idea of looking at developing programs that I call children of the gifted. Some of the brightest minds I've ever met in my life have been children who they claim to be autistic. When they say dyslexia, I don't believe dyslexia exists. I think there are other ways that you receive and assimilate information, And nobody says that decoding symbols is the only way to be able to learn. So that if you see people, the word people as P-E-P-E-L, people, that's what it sounds like. And that's what you may read it as. Or you may see it, the letters backwards. I don't think that's a problem. I think it's a problem in a society that says that you have to be smart the way they tell you you got to be smart. But in a society that is open, Obatala, he understood that some of his greatest challenges in him learning was in working with children who were that way, of the gifted, in order for you to find another way that you could be gifted. Because they have so much to teach us in their own way. But because we're about money, we don't want to deal with that. And right now they're trying to dismantle the education department simply because they don't want to have to deal with teaching children who are other gifted. And it's just what, I'll give you an example. I used to always tell the teachers when I was teaching in the Board of Education, before you submit the children to go to special ed, can you just let me talk to them for a little while to see what's going on? We had a student from the Dominican Republic, and the teacher was saying that he didn't understand math. He couldn't do math. Something as simple as division. He couldn't do division. So she thought he had a learning disability. And so I talked to him in my limited Spanish and his limited English. We came to realize that in the Dominican, when you have that division sign, right? And you put a 2 on the outside and you put a 4 on the inside of this little thing that looks like a little, and then you put the answer 2 on top. Well, in the Dominican Republic, they learn math the other way. The division sign is not up and over, it's down and over. And then where they put the numbers are different. So with once I did it the way that he was explaining he did it when he was in the Dominican Republic, he got all the answers right.
Listen, shout out to
ways of learning.
Yeah.
There are different methods of learning that all children have. And we're so busy ready to send them into a specialized class when all we have to do was understand from a cultural perspective how they learn things. They're symbols. And when they say that you're dyslexic, it's not that you have a problem, it's that you're other gifted. You assimilate information a lot of times through the visual world. And you can envision things that no one else can see. And so then that scares immature people because you've just let them know you're not as bright as you thought you were. So they try to make you think you got the problem.
I love that. 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 You, oh my God. It's like you took 10 like princess cut diamonds and put them on top of the sharpest doggone spear you could possibly put it on, like from Shaka Zulu, because you hit something with that. And that's something that not only do we deal with as a people, like individually, but I feel like we deal with that individually and familially and through the community and culturally, because I've been in rooms like that. And I'll never forget, I just shared this story recently. When I first started doing public speaking, I remember going to Toastmasters International. That's where I learned how to become a speaker, right? And I remember I had my locks. You remember back then my locks was long, and you know what I'm saying? And I was a truck driver, so I would go in there in my work uniform, and it was like, I could tell looking at the crowd, like they would judge me like, look at this, you know what I'm saying? Like, what is he going to say? You know what I mean? It was just like, I'm looking at them, how they're judging me with their judging eyes. And I'm laughing like, you can look at me how you want to, but I guarantee you I'll stand up toe to toe with any of y'all on the stage, and I don't think you're going to win. because you're just looking at me based upon what your perception is of me, but you don't know anything about me. You know what I mean? But it's crazy, but that's a real thing. That is a real thing.
You know, Sinners, the movie Sinners. Our brother, brilliant Ryan Coogler. When you hear him talk, some people would say that he has a unique way of speaking. Some people might think it's a speech impediment. I do not. That's not a speech impediment. That's a brilliant mind that is communicating through his tongue. Let me tell you why Sinners for me is one of the most phenomenal films and why Ryan Coogler is one of the most brilliant thinkers. 30 people could be in a movie house and watch Sinners. And every one of them could come back with a very unique and different interpretation of that movie. And they'd all be right. Art is the ability to present one concept that everybody brings their own experience in, and everybody's right. Let me now connect that to Meduneter or to the Andinkra symbols, because that's exactly what our ancestors were doing. That is why the Ifa, okay, is the beginning of computer science and the binary system of symbols. Ifa is much more than what people understand. And every one of those Orishas represents a cosmic reality. A picture speaks 1,000 words, but a symbol speaks 1,000 pictures. We are a symbolic people. We are very multidimensional. We see things in 4D when other people barely can see it in 3D. And one of the challenges is that because, like what you're saying, when you presented yourself to them looking at you a certain way, they were looking at you 3D and you were looking at them 4D. Children don't understand that concept, so they think, and they are made to believe that they're the ones with the problem because the adults are not bright enough to be able to go deeper into that child. We are an original people with a view of an original world through our DNA, no matter what has happened to us through our lives, through being enslaved, being disrespected, attempts at humiliation, the demasculinization of the man and the effeminization of the female, making them sexual objects and objectifying them. All of that, throughout all of that, we've maintained our dignity and ma'at. Some of us are struggling to hold on to it. And this is why I say I love our people unconditionally. I love them unconditionally, and I see them, even those that come after me. I see you, and I know why you're doing what you're doing. And it is unfortunate that you and I cannot have the type of relationship that we could have if you just let loose all the pain that you've carried and that has been handed down to you through generations and generations and generations of pain. We still carry that. All of us carry it to a certain point. Some of us have lessened the load through consciousness and through watching your program. Because that's what watching this does. It allows you to empty that suitcase of pain that we carry. It's a heavy load that Black people carry.
Yeah, that's real. And I know we got the time is like of the essence and a limited amount left, Professor Kaba. But I want to thank you again for coming through and doing what you do. And I did want to hopefully, if you got the time to hit the highlights of what we did want to initially talk about today. But before we do that, I'm gonna do something that I said I wasn't gonna do. I was gonna try to stop doing, but I got time today. I'm gonna go ahead and do this. So whoever this Melody, whoever they are, they're one of the ones that I was talking about with who come in with the division thing or whatever. I have no problem with sending you a guest link, and I have no problem with bringing you on air. I have no problem with talking to you, man to woman, whatever it is, and letting you know who and what I am and what I stand for. So if you didn't catch the first part of the show, I was clear and very intentional when I said, I don't care where humanity began at. I didn't come here to debate. I didn't come here to be divisive. I didn't come here to talk about whether it began in America or in Africa. I don't care. But what I do care about is what we do here and what we've been doing since April 8th of 2024. Go look it up. And what we've done is something very, 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 very impactful and very monumental in terms of raising and elevating the consciousness of our people and also creating a bridge of unity amongst our people. So clearly, you don't want to ride that bridge. You don't want to join the train. You don't want to get on the flight. So you can kick rocks because I'm tired of entertaining the people who come here with the parasitical division minded energy with the bullshit. So if you want to do a show and you want to come on, you want to debate, do it. Let's do it. Let's make it happen. But what you're not going to do is come here and ruin the chat and bring that negative, divisive energy in here and think that is cool, because I don't move like that. And neither does nobody else who comes on this channel. Like, we're not here for that. We're here for the collective. United we stand, divided we fall. And so clearly you're not with us. So you can kick rocks and keep it pushing, or you can come on here and we could do it however you want to do it. But whatever you want to go, whichever way you want to go, whichever way you want to do it, let's do it. But with that, Professor Kaba, when it comes
can I just speak to my sister Melody?
Yes, please.
Because, my sister Melody, my going back to Africa is more of a search for my roots. I will, when it's my time to join the ancestors, I will be buried in America. I have ancestors that have contributed to this country and created a phenomenal civilization known as Black culture. I know that there are African Americans, foundational Black Americans, whose ancestors are not just those that were stolen from Africa post 1492, but were the original human beings that were in this hemisphere going back over 100,000 years. If you read the works of Dr. David Imhotep and other scholars that are talking about the presence of African people here, the Twa Mbudi, Khoisan people of Central Southern Africa. So my going back to Africa is only to search for my roots, to understand the basic fundamental understanding of who we are as a people. But America is my country. I will be buried in the soil of America. I will go back to Africa. I've sent messages to Captain Ibrahim Traore to let him know if there's anything I can do to help him teach his children. I'm with you, brother. I'm with your people. I'm with Burkina Faso. I'm with Thomas Sankara, who is his person that he modeled himself after. I'll go to Ghana. I'll go to Nigeria. I did a tour of Egypt. I'll go to South Africa. I'll go anywhere. I'll go to the Caribbean. I'll go wherever African people are, Africa is. Wherever Africa is, I'm home. The planet is ours. Make no difference if it's America. Make no difference if it's Europe. Make no difference if it's China. This is our land. And I'm going to bequeath it. I am going to pass the baton to our children to know that you can go anywhere on this planet and you're home. Sister Melody, I love you, sis. You're family. And together we have to make these types of things happen. It's not we and them. It's us. Together. With respect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's where that's why I give thanks with being able to have a relationship with elders like you, because you teach me patience, you teach me poise, you teach me uh the ability to move methodically and not allowing passion or emotions to get the best of you. But I ain't gonna lie, I like speaking with passion because that's who I am. Like
Well,
that's what I am.
there's two types of emotion. Okay, a negative emotion is anger.
Yeah.
Okay, that's destructive.
Yeah.
But a positive emotion is passion,
Yes.
and that's constructive. It's good
Yes.
to be passionate. I'm passionate. It's
Yeah.
good to be passionate.
Mm-hmm.
And there
Yeah.
are times that you may get angry because you're a human being.
Mm-hmm.
And anger does come sometimes when things get to the point. The only problem with anger is that you cannot be productive in anger.
Facts.
You can be productive in passion,
Mm-hmm.
but in anger you are destroying things. You're
Yeah.
taking things apart.
Mm-hmm.
But in passion, you're putting those things back together again.
Mm-hmm.
I get angry, but I've learned how to get out of my anger quicker and move more to passion so that those things that I tore apart, I start to put back together again.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I
Yes, sir.
still get angry. I'm a human being. I get pissed.
Oh yeah.
And I throw around them F bombs too.
I know. I heard
But
a
the
few.
thing is that we're human beings. Don't don't tell me what I can and can't do. And what's very interesting with our sisters, people have this term, almost like a just like a term. They say the angry black woman.
Yep.
But you know something? If there's any human being on this planet, in this country, who has the right to be angry, it is the black woman.
Mm.
You have a right to be angry. The only reason why I don't want you to be angry is because I know you deserve so much better when you take that emotion and create passion. Because that's what helped build our nation in this country when we were being enslaved. It was that you were able to take that anger, that emotion, and turn it into passion and build us. And we got a lot of work that we have to do. But you have every right to be angry.
Yes, sir. That's facts. That's
That is a
facts.
fact. The black woman in America has every right to be angry for what her terminology. I'm not saying the black man don't have a right either, but there's a term. They don't really say an angry black man, although they may say something like that. But they have this term like the angry black woman because you see, they know that when the black woman get angry, stuff gonna start to happen. Vaseline come out, she start taking them earrings off, and she ready to duke it out. I will kick your ass.
Yes, sir. That part. And fuck around and find out if you want to. I don't
That's
want to
it.
be on the other side of that. Y'all
No,
do whatever y'all want to do.
that's
Like
right.
for real, for real.
And
Mhm.
when in Spain, when the Moors were in Spain,
Mhm.
one of the problems that they had was that the Indo-European Muslims denied their women rights, but the black or the African Moors gave them Muslims, the women had rights. And the Indo-European would tell the African, listen, man, your women are a bad example for our women.
Mm.
Because your women run things and own land, and our women can't do that. So now you got to
Mm.
go and tell your woman. And the brother said, "Yeah, you tell her.
Yeah.
Don't tell me. You tell that sister what you just told me. So go ahead, go ahead. Hey, baby, come over here. That man want to talk to you for a minute."
Yeah. 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 And see how that turned out for you.
That's it. No, man, don't play. The black woman has always has she not only has sat on the throne, she was the throne. That's our set.
And she is the throne, and no male or masculine energy will get access to that throne without coming through her blessings.
And that is sociologically correct. One is not better than the other. One is not more important than the other. But there are certain responsibilities that men have and women have, and it's the woman's job to raise the nation. And a nation will only be as strong and as effective as the genius of the woman, because she is the womb from whence we come.
Yes, sir.
And this is another thing when I talk to brothers, you know, they get a little tight-jawed with me sometimes. because they're trying to prove to the white man that they are as powerful over their women as he is over theirs. But he's not powerful over his woman. He's abusive to his woman. And sisters ain't taking that. We are always very important together. We are like electricity and magnetism. Electrical currents create magnetic fields, and magnetic fields create electrical currents. That's what creates electromagnetic energy, currents and fields. One is not more important than the other. One enhances the other. And that is what built the pyramids. And that's what built West African traditions. And when we lost our way, thinking that we would control, we lost our power. Because we tried to deny our women that power. I know, you know, brothers get tight-jawed with me when I speak like this.
Yeah.
Because it becomes very unsure because of the society that we're living in. I ain't trying to prove nothing to the European. My woman sits beside me. She rules. This is a co-rule. Co-rule. Together. Ma'at in balance.
Yeah.
With respect, dignity, and honor. And that's what's going to build our next nation. As we speak. So family, I really would like you to go to my website, www.kabakamene.com. You'll get a free e-course, 6-day e-course and study guide. You'll also get exposure to a lot of my work, my books, my streams of videos that I've done, my webinars, quick webinars that talk about teaching methodologies, and my webinars which talk about what to teach. And if you're so motivated to support the work that we're doing, this upcoming tour that we're going to begin in 2026, my Cash App is Kaba Kamene 7. I would appreciate, and I do appreciate, all that you've already done, because I know by some of the names I see, I see that you have supported the work that I'm doing. And I assure you that as you support me, so will I support you. We have to do this for our children. I have a 100-year plan. My plan will come into fruition when people will not even have had this type of engagement with me. They will not know me this way. But I'm going to lay the groundwork for what our ancestors laid the groundwork for us. There are ancestors that have made what we're doing possible, and we don't even know their names, but we know that they're there. And when I do libation, I always say that I call on those ancestors, that I don't know your name, but I am here because of you. Muntu, I am because you were, since you were, therefore I am. I'm working for 100 years. We're going to lay down this educational program for our children for the next 100 years. And I ask for your support. We're going to make this happen. My brother Orisa Gbemi, I just want to thank you, man, for all that you do to make this possible for our work and for our people. Because without this type of platform with you, I'd be talking to myself right now. But you allow me to go in and speak to sisters like Melody and Harmonious Balance and Nkosi you allow me to talk. And together we can make things happen. To my sister Sandra, thank you so much for all that you do, all of your words of encouragement. I love us and I respect us. We deserve the best because we are the best. So thank you, brother Orisa Gbemi, for this opportunity. And I look forward to the next time.
I share. No, I appreciate it, Professor Kaba, and it's so funny but that's the blessing of you being who you are and me being who I be. We didn't even get to tap into what the whole doggone show was supposed to be. what the whole show was supposed to be about and what it was supposed to be about to be, but it's like, but that's how it happens though. That's the organicness of what, energy. I feel like the last one, like I said, I remember like closing out just like we are right now. I remember I was like, man, I don't know how like all this happens, but it just seems like it kind of like energy just kind of puts us in the right place at the right time, and it's all divine. And I was like, it always seems to somehow, some way coagulate together. And I'll never forget, you was like, that's mirror. I can't say it how you said it, but you said it was mirror. And I was like, man, that's dope because, those who know, because we're at different levels, on this channel. Some people know it, a lot further than other people, we're all in different grades or whatever, but it was just so profound, like the way you broke down how the mirror, was the reason why all this took place. And then when you think about, for those who might be deeper in their Kemetic studies, when you talk about the Mer and you talk about the Mer Kaba, and you talk about what Mer is, or the Mer, what is it? Mer, what is the what you call the three pyramids? The Mer suit? Is that what you call it?
Well, I call it Meru.
Meru.
Yeah, the U at the end of Mer makes it plural. Like we use S to pluralize, the U
Gotcha.
pluralizes. So
Gotcha.
I call it Meru. There's a more exact name
Gotcha.
For it. But Meru, Miru.
Gotcha.
Greeks called it pyramids, house of fire.
Gotcha.
We call it Meru, love of the cosmos.
Gotcha. That's what's up. Nah, I give thanks, Professor Kaba, and shout out to Melody. I hope I'm saying it right. Aurora. This is the second time this has happened where there was like maybe a little bit of a disagreement or some sort of friction during an actual live stream, and then we was able to bring it back home and hug it out and piece it out and keep it pushing. So shout out to her for seeing where we're coming from and giving it the time to think. Just like you said earlier when you said you get mad, but you've learned how to kind of like pull yourself down to get back into a clear focus. I feel like that's what happened tonight amongst her and amongst myself. So I appreciate you, Melody. I'm here to win. Honestly, that's what I'm here for. I'm not here for nothing else. I don't care what role. I can come off the bench. I could be the water boy. I could be whatever, the dude wiping up the sweat off the floor when the basketball players fall. I don't care. I just want to be on the team that's going to win. That's what I'm here for. And I'm going to do everything that I can to win. And I ain't going out without a fight. I'm going to let y'all know that too. I came here to fight too. Like, I ain't scared of that. But I came here to love. And so with that being said, Professor Kaba, I love you. I love the work that you've done. I love that you have taken a dude like myself, under your wing and gave me the opportunity to even sit at your feet, and study the greatness in which the work that you've done. And I know that you pay it forward to all those like the Dr. Clarks, the Dr. Benz, the Dr. Jacksons, all those who you've done the same thing with. I'm grateful just to get the opportunity to stand in line, to be able to sit here and to be able to talk to our people from a place of truth, from a place of authenticity, and a place of authority, because we know who we are, we know what we are, and we know what we came here to do. So I feel like we're going to resonate with those who are here with the eyes to see and the ears to hear. And so I give thanks to you for all that you've done, past, present, and future. And I can't wait till we do it again, man. So I definitely give a shout out to Heru as well. Heru been helping me out, working with me on this channel and the things that we're going to be bringing to the community in the future. And I look forward to the album release, the documentary release party that we're working on that we're going to be having coming up soon, family. So shout out to the Nagas and Kemet documentary, which is dope. I got a chance to check it out, man. I can't wait till we had a release party to make that thing official. So with that, man, I appreciate you so much. The words can't even really, I feel like, express how much I appreciate what you've done for me, not just myself, but for me and the tribe, man. So I give thanks to you, Professor Kaba, as always, and I look forward to doing it again, man.
Keep on keeping on. It ain't over till we win.
Yes,
Solar
sir.
power is the future wealth of the planet. All power to the people.
Yes, sir. That part. Ashe. All right. Well, yeah, I'll definitely be in touch, Professor Kaba, man. Like I said, thanks again. Because look, hey, y'all, Tribe, he gave us about a good hour and some change more than what we were supposed to have tonight. But, man, I give thanks, man. So, y'all, hit that Cash App, hit the website, and, hit that documentary because we'll be speaking about that pretty soon in the very near future once we can get our schedule aligned to when we're going to have the release party. But with that being said, man, I can't thank you enough, Professor Kaba. Thanks again for all that you do, all that you've done, and all that you will do. So with that, family, I appreciate y'all, Tribe. Thank every single one of y'all. We over 15,000 strong right now, and I appreciate the love, support, the comments, the shares, the feedback, everything, man. I appreciate y'all. I am because we are, and because we are, I am. Shout out to Professor Kaba and all the ancestors who paved the way for us to be here today. So with that being said, family, we'll see y'all on the next episode. We are out. I am your host, Orisa Gbemi. Don't forget to please like, share, subscribe. We'll see y'all tomorrow night at 8 p.m. We out, family. Peace. Odabo.
Ẹni tó gbàgbé ilé sàpò ìyàpọ̀ tẹ́ǹtì ẹni takísà ní tàtàn ò bá padà sílé anítìjàkọ ẹja lọ pé eégún mo sí ẹni gbẹ́rẹ́ ìpàkọ́. Forsake not your ancestors and praise your